It's amazing.
Like when I'm listening to the show and you say something like what supermarket in the Valley is it? I want to shout out Southern and Mill. And it's just not an option.
I'm so happy you picked that one, by the way.
See, I don't think that you should let that hold you back. I listened to mostly Matt Myra's commentaries on other shows, but James Bonding and Star Trek: The Next Conversation, and I'm always shouting these things out.
Yeah.
That's
part of the fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that we're kind of going off of some of the themes in the show, and really, what I'm here to talk about is Janet and why there needs to be more Janet focus.
Well, and it seems, again, no spoilers or anything, but I think that the writers, are trying to give us our Janet fix, and Darcy Carden is a national treasure.
Yeah, she's a tremendous performer.
Seriously, one of the funniest people.
We did name our server Janet, so if you're trying to hack into my website, please don't. But Janet is our server.
I think what they're really trying to do is, I think they picked up that Jan is part of the appeal of what she'll do.
Yeah,
and they're really trying hard not to make her the Urkel.
Well, that's
yes. Well, and I think they're so far succeeding in that.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me just say this: Janet is the everyman of this show.
Yes.
She is
or every person.
all of us in the 21st century. Good job, gentlemen.
As she says, I am not a girl.
She is, we're all in this point of being totally over inundated with information, but it doesn't necessarily help us function as humans. And we're trying to come to terms with how to be human in this postmodern, highly digital, overly informed era.
Sure.
And so that we all have this Janet quality that Darcy Carden really, we all kind of lean in, and I'm going to ask you guys who you are on the show, what combo I want percentages, so start thinking.
Okay.
What is it? We all relate to certain characters. We all have, well, I'm mainly cheaty, but you definitely like some hardcore Eleanor thrown in. There's like a mixture of like things that make each one of us in all of these characters. But I think the base of all of us is that sort of that void of Janet. We're all we're all essentially the void of Janet.
Yes.
So maybe this whole journey of The Good Place is actually just the journey of Janet coming to be human.
Yeah.
As we all try to be human in the 21st century.
I will say that I relate so much to Eleanor, and just the way that
really
I do, and just the way that, like, at least, and I relate to Eleanor a lot, but I aspire to be Jason Mendoza, or
we've talked about this a little bit, and it's that quality of him being just completely fine with who he is.
Yes, he is the
Mark Anderson.
Yes, he is the one person on the show who is so unapologetically himself that I adore that so much. And it's amazing how the actor pulls it off, that authenticity of who he is. I mean, I keep in mind, I don't aspire to be Jason in any other way other than I just want to
I want to call back to that a little bit, because as much as my laughter at Phoenix is kind of like uncomfortable, anytime they zing Florida, I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, take that, Florida.
That's what I would say. Like, as a transplant, as someone who grew up in Detroit, lived in Milwaukee, and then somehow ended up in Phoenix, I'm pretty indifferent to the digs at Phoenix. But I also do notice that they take equally, if not stronger, digs at Florida. And this is from a guy who...
Florida deserves it. It's America's Wang.
It's true.
No, there's you guys.
And then, like,
Arizona.
I also...
and I love this place. I love the desert. I love this town. But man, there's some jokes that could be made about
I'm
this
sure
place.
that everybody from Florida is like, aw, but take that, Arizona. So I'm okay with it.
But then, like, I also like Dogma, when that takes some really good pot shots at Milwaukee, which is a city that I love. So, but
The last great Kevin Smith movie.
yeah, I mean, it does have a giant shit monster in it, so I mean,
Shit demon.
Golgotha.
I honestly think, and I think that there are some people that would agree that I'm a lot cheaty. I can talk myself out of anything.
It's funny. I would say that I have a cheaty quality in that there's a tendency. I'm sure we all want to. There's a tendency to overthink the morality of a situation. The difference between me and cheaty is that I am very decisive and very assertive. So like, it doesn't lead me to indecision. I evaluate moral things. I feel I make the decision that is, in my view, morally sound, and then I run with it. And I mean, I run with it. And it's just like, to the point of maybe a lack of... This is the moment where I realize that this is a podcast, so whatever I say is going to then be put out into the ether forever. Right.
As I've learned, Jared does not edit.
Yeah. I don't know.
Editing is for suckers.
A lack of, yeah. I can be harshly critical.
So you're saying that you have... So are you like Eleanor with Cheaty Rising?
I would say I'm like Eleanor with maybe what is the name of the What I keep thinking, what is the name of the actress who plays the judge?
Oh, Maya Rudolph?
Yeah. Maybe like Cheaty with a mean Maya Rudolph streak. Yeah.
And she likes burritos.
I do.
I
do
love
enjoy a quality
Maya
burrito.
Rudolph. Well, we can't talk about that. That's season 2.
Oh.
Spoiler, Maya Rudolph is in season 2.
We're in the intermediary space.
Yeah.
However, I think, and this is just...
We're just saying she's in the second season. I'm just saying.
Yes.
But also, I like to think that the people who are listening to our podcast right now are either watching or caught up. I don't think anyone's...
I don't think we can take that for granted, though.
Right.
I think that there are some people who either heard of the show through us. I think there might be a few.
Yep.
Or there are people who started listening to it maybe after beginning to watch it on Netflix, and they had only watched the first season. Although I think that, mostly what I hear from people is once they start watching it, they just watch all the way through because there's only 13 episodes a season.
And then there's my dad, who came because his son is in it and likes the, witty banter between
my
me
sparkling humor, wit.
And then thinks maybe I'll watch that show someday, but wrestling's on.
It's interesting. Going back to mentioning like Star Trek: The Next Conversation real quick. They have a fan who just listens for the interplay between Matt and Andy and has never seen an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Wow. That's success.
Yeah.
Right.
There. Yeah. So I would say if we have listeners like your dad, I think that's okay.
Yep.
I think that everybody should watch this show? Yeah. I mean, do I think everybody will get the good place? No.
Well, I think it's pretty accessible. I think that what I like, there's a lot of layers to the humor where there's a lot that's
back to the onions,
readily accessible.
Sure.
The onion is a metaphor in so many ways for so many things. So the show is really accessible. You're going to see like flying shrimp and those things happening in the first season that are engaging in one way. And there's a lot of, but then there's that subtle humor that carries along as well.
It'll be interesting, to just comment briefly, getting into the second season as we will in a matter of, weeks, is that there can never be another first season of this show. They rode this conceit all the way to the end of the first season before revealing that it is not what we think it is. And
was that a reveal, guys?
No. But I did on repeated watches, like pick up more clues earlier on, and by the time they got to the end of the season, I had a good idea what was going to happen. But
I knew about 2 minutes into the last episode the first time I watched. I'm like, it's the bad place.
But we talked for a really long time on the last episode of the first season about Ted Danson's turn, where he's like, where one moment he's the Michael that everybody knows and loves, and is this. Although again, I think he geniusly throughout the first season like showed little cracks in his demeanor where he was not the happy, shiny, everything's okay Michael person. But as he is sitting there with like his legs crossed and his head in his hands, and then revealing with the evil grin and the that's a terrible impersonation of Ted Danson's laugh. But when he turns into I'm Michael from the bad place, it's to watch his face turn. It's absolute fucking genius.
So here's my theory on that. Which, by the way, I know you hate sitcoms, but you should definitely give Cheers maybe a watch or two.
Oh, I grew up on Cheers.
Okay.
You can stay.
But
an hour and 11 minutes later, you can stay.
Okay.
No, actually, when
your invitation is
when my plane was rerouted over the Atlantic from Paris, and we were in Boston, the one thing we did.
Oh,
go see
stopped at Cheers.
Oh, good,
yeah.
Nice.
So there you go, fellas.
So when he's got his head in his hand and he's lamenting about how he's messed up this neighborhood, he's not lamenting the fact that he's not putting on an act. He is actually upset because he knows Sean's gonna be pissed at his experiment.
Oh, there's that. Yeah,
his experiment has gone way off the rails, and Eleanor keeps thwarting it over and over again.
Yeah. There's that, but I think some of that is retconned a little bit in the second season. I think we'll get into that.
Keep in mind, I came up with this theory literally 2 minutes ago.
You know what? That's not bad for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't. Maybe they haven't finished pulling all the punches yet.
Yeah, maybe not.
Which I think leads into kind of another thing we maybe want to talk about is that they did renew it for a 4th season.
Yes, which I did talk about very briefly. Means we get to cross the 50 episode mark.
Yeah. So, how do you think this is?
We don't have to morph into a glow discussion yet.
But how do we think what more do they have to offer?
Well, we can't really speculate on that now, can we, Jason? Because we're between 1 and 2.
Well,
but I mean that's a good discussion. While I am happy for a number of reasons, and it's not only because it means that our podcast goes on for longer. Is that part of me is just like, oh, this is great. There's more of this show that I love, but I do always have a worry that a show that hangs around long enough becomes a show that I'm like,
Simpsons.
Yeah, I've never subscribed to the theory that I've heard, which is that The Simpsons has another golden age somewhere in the 20s, as far as seasons goes. But for me, that period that I will always turn back to is seasons 3 through 10. I was even having rewatched Star Trek: The Next Generation. I had forgotten how bad some of those season 6 and 7 episodes were. It went and hit this season 3 through 5 of being this amazing show that I think is some of the best writing in television, to season 6 and 7 where there are some good episodes here and there, and then some what? Troy's pregnant now? I mean, what?
Yeah. So I think
even though that was in season 4, still.
This is me just spitballing here. Feel free to disagree.
I disagree.
But I feel like why The Simpsons is not going to have another golden age is because now the writers are writing what they think makes a good Simpson episode, as opposed
rather
to
than just what makes a good what's good writing.
And I thought about that when I was listening to Chris on Saturday night doing his presentation before being John Malkovich. Those are writers who are steeped in like the Vonnegut and the absurdist authors and humors. Whereas the writers who they have now, who I don't know personally,